Hello and welcome back to Even More News, the first and only news podcast. My name is Katy Stoll.
Thank you, Katy Stoll. Thank you so much. I'm Cody Johnson. Welcome to the second of the week episode of the first and only news podcast for the first time ever.
Joining us today, very exciting first-time guest, we have Matt Gertz, a senior fellow at Media Matters for America. Hi, Matt.
Hey, good to be here.
Thank you for
so much
being
for being
here. Jonathan's also here, by the way.
It's true.
Hi.
That classic catchphrase.
Matt, you are new here. We're going to chit-chat, but first, very importantly, we have some holidays to acknowledge and to celebrate.
Ooh.
Friday, February 28th is National Skip the Straw Day. A day to go without straws to help protect marine life. Okay. Sure.
That'll do
Yesterday, I got a couple days ago, got a takeout coffee, and they didn't even offer straws, but it had a little thing, a little lid, so it's a little sippy cup.
This is great. Do you think Trump's going to celebrate and talk about how he got rid of straws for good?
He's going to change it to skip the paper straw.
He unbanned them. He unbanned
celebrate
real
the
straws.
plastic straw.
Or,
throw it in the ocean.
actually, he revoked a ban on certain types of plastic and framed it differently. But whatever, we'll talk about other things that he does like that.
Yeah, always. Saturday, March 1st. This one's fun, you guys.
Is it?
National Dadgum That's Good Day. Dadgum? Dadgum? Dangun?
Dadgum.
Dadgum That's Good. National Dadgum That's Good Day ushers in a season of satisfying seasonings. Okay. Cooking and overall good times spent with the family. Dadgum That's Good is much more than just a Southern phrase and the title of John McLemore's best-selling cookbook series. Okay, so John bought this holiday?
Yeah, no, he created it. His book series is called Dadgum That's Good, but he only had a couple in the early 2010s, so it didn't really take. He didn't really take off as a food guy. But apparently, the seasonings make you say that trademarked statement that he trademarked. Dadgum That's Good.
I kind of like Dadgum That's Good. It's kind of satisfying to say.
Do you like that he bought a holiday and called it that?
I would love it if you guys, our viewers, would comment Dadgum That's Good. Only if you think it's good, though.
Yeah, if you think it's bad,
this
say
episode is
whatever you
tasty.
want.
Dadgum This Sucks if you think it sucks, but don't,
Yeah.
don't do that.
Don't.
You can say
If you
Dadgum
don't
This
have anything
Sucks.
nice to say, just don't say it.
Say Dadgum, I have nothing nice to say, and leave
There
it at
you
that.
go. Nice compromise. Okay, Matt.
Enough of that business.
I think that we're wasting your expertise with this holiday frivolity.
I just want to know if a holiday that is devoted to Southern dialects is even still allowed. Isn't that DEI? I don't know.
Oh, very good point. I think we need to bring this up.
Yeah,
with
they
our
don't.
higher
They
ups.
don't deserve a holiday.
Well, yeah, we're banning consarnate. We're banning there's a
Tarnation.
snake in my
yeah,
boots. I think that's just Woody. I don't think that's a whole Southern
Snake in my
thing.
boots is specifically Woody. Yes.
Well, Matt, first off, how are you doing? How are you holding up? It's wild out there. Lots of political attacks on the media all the time and interesting space to be in, I'm sure. How's it going?
Yeah, it's fun. Things are great in the media space. It's an industry that is just booming, and everyone loves journalists. So things are really going well. And over at Media Matters, where we largely focus on what's going on in the right-wing media, there's a lot of just totally insane slop happening basically all the time.
Yeah.
So we always have that to look forward to at least.
Oh, yeah.
Every hour
Keeps things
now. It's every
exciting.
hour. Some new slop to find out where it came from and what they're even talking about, what the claim even is, and
then the next thing you know, the person pushing the slop is like running a department in the federal government. So
Isn't that exciting?
Exactly.
We're in the upside down now.
Or not really running the department. He's not really running the department. He's not involved, but
Oh,
he's
that's
running
true.
the cabinet meeting.
Wait, who? They announced.
Which one are we talking about
Oh
right
yeah,
now?
I was talking about an entirely different.
yeah.
I'm like, which one is it
You never
this
know
time?
these days.
There's just so much slop.
I believe Jonathan was referring to Elon Musk not actually being the head of Doge.
Yeah, it's Amy Gleason, who we all know.
Who found out about it like 4 days ago while she was on vacation, I think, in Mexico.
Also, I just want to call attention to the fact that it's probably been a hard time for you having a name so similar to Matt Gertz, especially online. I'm so sorry for any distress that's brought to you. You didn't ask for this.
I did not. I mean, and honestly, like the day when he was named the Attorney General nominee was one of those like, come on, guys, what have I done?
This is a career ruiner for me.
Yes, but yeah, at least it didn't work out. There's apparently some line that gets drawn either around someone who has allegedly engaged in sex trafficking or just been like a huge asshole that everyone hates. Whatever reason it was, he got spiked, and now he's on One America News, a network that literally no one watches.
Yeah.
So since then, things have calmed down.
I'm curious if there is a line though, still, because you're right. At least in this situation, there was a line, but it seems like that line doesn't apply to other people. It's just that is a particularly unpalatable person. If he was popular in any capacity, it wouldn't have happened.
Hated by everybody.
Yeah, I think that was what killed it. Like, literally, he's one of the most loathed people in American politics. And you know, I have become acquainted with a bunch of people who have known him in various capacities over his life and career, and they're all like, "Yeah, this tracks. This is just what he's like. He's
it's
just
undeniable.
like a huge scummy asshole. Like, what are you gonna do?"
So if you're gonna be that type of person, you gotta have a little bit of that riz. Is the takeaway?
Yes, you need to be less unpleasant. It really seems like that's what tanked him. And
also take issue with what other people seem to consider riz, but we'll put a pin in that.
I think if he was nominated today, he might get through. Like, he must really regret dropping out.
Oh,
because
yeah.
it
Absolutely.
changed
so early, so quickly. Yeah.
Everyone else got through. He's the only one. He must have been like, they're going to toss off our RFK's not getting through. None of these people.
Has no chance. Like all these people. Yeah, it's like, oh,
wrong.
Actually, anything is possible, Matt. But also, I assume at this point, and we'll talk about this later with all the press and media stuff going on, I assume that very soon Matt Gertz will just be in the in the press pool, right? Like he's going to be one of the people that they bring in to ask really tough questions of the administration. I can only assume.
You know, I hadn't actually considered that possibility, but now that you mention it, yeah, that seems like basically a sure thing. That
like
at
next
some
step
point,
for him, right?
Yeah, he'll be like in the White House, throwing off briefing questions. Sure, why not?
Yeah, doing.
I hadn't considered it
lobbing
either.
some softballs and
for ruining my day, Cody.
I'm sorry.
Doing
It's like it's inevitable
from Air Force One. Yeah, why not?
Like we never got Warmbo his press credentials.
I don't think that's in the cards, but we'll see.
I don't think it was. I don't think it is either.
Yeah.
I guess we should dive into it. Why not? Hey, hey, Jonathan, why don't you set us up to have a conversation about media in the Trump era? Seems like a fitting place to
start.
start.
Dive into the press pool.
There we go. Oh, Cody.
How dare you upstage?
That's why I'm here.
Katie's introduction to the
so
news.
Sorry.
We were just talking about this. If you don't know, the White House press pool is a group of 13 rotating journalists that are allowed to follow the president in settings that are smaller than the traditional press conference. So they go on Air Force One, they're in the Oval Office and cabinet meetings, things like that. That group of journalists has always been chosen by the White House Correspondents Association in the past, traditionally. And the White House took the unprecedented step of saying it was taking over this process, and it booted out HuffPost's correspondent and the Reuters Wire reporter and invited in Newsmax and The Blaze. So that's just to start. The Associated Press was already kicked out because they won't call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. That's ongoing.
Every week, every day, I'm like, this is unbelievable. And it's not unbelievable, but it is unbelievable all at the same time. How can you get away? How can you do this? We're just going to let it happen. We always do.
Yeah.
I love the pushback online. It's like, well, it hasn't been forever. It's been like since 1914. Okay. That's like
I haven't
3
seen
times
that.
in your
Since
life.
radio, it's fine.
Like since modern media. Okay.
It only predates the Spanish flu by a couple years.
That is the essence of what I have seen in the discourse. And of course, I always have to remind myself the discourse is so fucking skewed and not representative of necessarily of how things are landing, because this is it should be unpalatable to everybody.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I've also seen we'll see if he actually does it. He'll end up just calling on whomever. No. I mean, maybe he'll call on whomever, but the principle here is very, very important.
Well, right. Like, even if he's like, well, what if he just calls on he's still doing this thing. Like, you're ignoring what's going on to be like, okay, but like, what if he does it differently or does it like in a good way? They can't admit what's in front of them. Every single day, it's pointless. This is just flashbacks to the first term of like, okay, but imagine if Obama did that. Okay, imagine if Joe Biden did that. Okay, imagine if literally anybody but he did that. You'd be freaking out. You'd be doing a January 6th or whatever.
What I think back to from the first term is when Trump was suddenly taken to Walter Reed during the pandemic. And we later found out that it was because he had COVID, and just wondering, if there hadn't been a press pool of reporters who took their jobs seriously, whether we ever would have found out, when we would have found out that that's what was going on. I mean, the point of taking over the press pool is to make determinations about who's in it, to stock it with people who are propagandists who will just, say whatever you want them to say. That's why they're doing it. And so I think in questions like that, like real-time updates where we need to know what the president is doing, that's what's going to get thrown aside.
Yeah, it's very obvious what they're doing and why they're doing it, and bringing in the Blaze and bringing in Newsmax. Okay, so you just want his buddies to control the information that gets out. And control that ecosystem. And we might talk about today the Epstein files have been released, even though you can go look at the flight logs now. You can look at his little black book right now. There's no list of names that they will actually release. Maybe whatever, we'll see. But
everything
you're getting,
redacted but Bill Clinton.
Yeah, but you're cultivating this group of people like Mike Cernovich and libs of TikTok and giving them these prop binders to create this illusion of transparency. Oh, they're releasing this. No, it's all pageantry to create that illusion for his people and then to control that. That information pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Jack Posobiec, who's, a Pizzagate guy, someone who pushed the insane conspiracy theory that a local DC pizza parlor had a child sex trafficking ring operating out of the basement when the restaurant doesn't have a basement, and it's insane that I know that, but that's the level that we're dealing with. Anyway, Posobiec is now going on trips with members of the cabinet. He is a fully read-in MAGA influencer stalwart and someone that they're going to push out their message every day.
Exactly. Yeah, he's also a neo-Nazi collaborator. He's worked with actual neo-Nazis, and there's so many tweets and DMs from early 2016, 2015 where he's buddying up to Richard Spencer and all these people. He's one of the figures where I'm I can't believe he's gotten away with it for so long and is still around, and they're serious people who take him seriously. But this is all what they're doing. It's in Hungary, I think they have it's sort of this illiberal approach to press and democracy. We're okay, we're going to get rid of the mainstream media, which is all fake and we hate it, and we're going to bring in our conservative influencer group to be the new press. And it's presented as freedom and access to information, and it's just a new propaganda arm.
Matt, do you have a sense, because NBC News and a few other major news outlets still get some access, they haven't been completely kicked out, are they going to be reporting on what the if Newsmax, a Newsmax reporter asks, why did Joe Biden let so much fentanyl into this country, or tee up Trump for something, that will be news to what we consider the mainstream media?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, all of that stuff is going to be, filmed. That's all going to be stuff that is happening at press gaggles with the president. So they'll be there. They'll be able to respond if they choose to. But there's definitely a sense now that they're, widening the lens of debate by bringing in their shills who can ask softball questions. That's really what they're going for here.
Because also I've seen, I don't know if you've seen this, I think Vance tweeted about it. A bunch of people are bragging about the number of questions Trump has taken. And again, it's this sort of like creating this illusion of transparency and of like information pipelines where it's like, oh, compared to Biden, who only answered like 100 some questions in his first month, Trump answered like 1,000 or something. The number of questions doesn't actually matter. It's what was the question? What was his answer? What was your response to the answer? For example, literally today, a reporter, tariffs are paid eventually by American importers and consumers. Trump answers, no, I think they are paid for by the country. Well, that's just not true. Do you follow up on that? You want to answer that?
The tariffs are paid eventually by American importers and consumers.
No, they're not. No, I think they're paid for by the country.
So not only are they bragging about the number of questions, Vance also talked recently about how like Trump is a very thoughtful speaker. He thinks before he speaks, and he's very considerate of his words.
Zelensky is a dictator.
Did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question.
What?
What?
2 hours
Trump's
ago.
superpower on this one is that because everyone knows that he's like a huge liar who is just constantly making shit up, he gets away with like what otherwise would lead to the is he senile? Does he not remember like a week ago when this happened? I mean, when he like put it out on Truth Social and then again in like a public forum, like, I mean, he just does this stuff, and figuring out like what's him being crazy, what's him being deliberately lying, what's him being extremely old is just very difficult for anyone to tease out.
Right, and
always
because
been.
it's all
This
those
is-
things, it's
Yeah.
like, well, that's just who he is. So it's good,
Yeah.
even though it's like all three.
It's impossible. It's just impossible to pin him. People just I feel like more people get away with it, but he's the one with this superpower, and
He's the king.
It's you just can't pin him on everything. There's always the element of plausible deniability, I guess.
The George
But not-
Costanza, it's not a lie if you believe it. Like, that's a big
Yeah.
part of it.
I would love it if Trump pulled a Costanza and like showed up to the White House in 2021 on like January 21st. Just like, yeah, I'm still the president, right?
He should do everything
would
Costanza
love that?
does in that show. He should eat an eclair out of the trash. He should take his shirt off when he goes to the bathroom
All of it.
and then
Yeah.
walk out with the spoilers for the end of that episode.
Get the White House to donate to the Human Fund.
Yeah,
Exactly,
Oh,
exactly.
I'm sure we're diverting
is-
all that money for U.S. aid and putting it into the Human Fund.
It is not far off. Oh my gosh, he is going to start the Human Fund. Oh, jeez.
I definitely want to ask Matt about Dan Bongino because
Yeah, I do too.
you followed him for years and years, and you wrote a piece about him this week. Your sense is that there really is nothing to keep him from weaponizing the FBI for his purposes, but what happens when those investigations come up empty, right? Trump wants an investigation. They do the investigation. Will we see a trial? Will we see charges brought based on nothing?
Nothing. Yeah.
I mean, I think we could. That is the scary part of this. I mean, what we saw during the first Trump administration is, he would spend a lot of time watching Fox News, watching his television, tweeting about what he was seeing on Fox News, and then calling up the FBI or the DOJ and saying, hey, could you guys do an investigation into the crazy shit that I just saw about how all of my enemies are criminals? And they can't really say no, so they would try to do the investigation. And these were people, Trump-appointed U.S. attorneys, Trump-appointed head of the FBI, and so on and so forth, looking into this stuff. And then, like, a couple of years later, you'd get a news report that would come out that'd be like, yeah, they've looked into this, and they're closing the case because there's, like, literally nothing there at all. What can you do? But I feel like someone like Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, who will be his supervisor as director of the FBI, Pam Bondi, who is the attorney general and like a longtime Trump stalwart and sycophant, Ed Martin, who is the U.S. attorney here in Washington, D.C., and has spent the last several years like defending January 6th defendants and is
Big Libs of TikTok fan.
Yeah, I mean, these are the people who are going to be deciding what gets investigated, what gets prosecuted, taken to judges, and taken to trial.
It's chilling.
Yeah, I mean, I just, they don't really know how to make cases because they have no actual
No
experience
experience.
doing any of this stuff. Yeah. But they can take it pretty far anyway. And someone like Bongino, I mean, as you say, I've watched him for years. We're real sickos at Media Matters. I've watched him on like
what a masochist.
He had an NRA TV show that the NRA had like a streaming network back in 2018.
They had to
just
pivot
that
to
one
video.
year.
Yeah, they were pivoting to video. And I mean, the sort of bottom line on Bongino is that he's just constantly talking about how all Donald Trump's enemies are being like falsely prosecuted, and it's the downfall of the Republic that any of this is happening. And he's constantly saying that all of Trump's enemies are criminals who need to be investigated and prosecuted. Yeah, when you put someone who says that like the one thing about his life right now is owning the libs in charge of federal investigations, you're just looking at a really bad time.
It's kind of all of these people want to own the libs.
They just have
They don't
access
give
to
a
grind.
fuck about.
Yeah.
Sorry for saying the word. No, I'm not.
They
They don't care about
definitely
leading
said
or.
that before.
Like, also, is he gonna have his podcast?
So interestingly, so as of Monday, he went on he did his podcast for what I assumed was going to be the last time, but then he was like, no. I'm going to keep doing it for a while. I know that I have a lot of work to do since I'm about to take over an agency with 36,000 employees that I've never worked at. But I feel like I would be bad at this. I would think that like that would be a terrifying scenario, and then I would want to like immediately drop everything and spend all of my time figuring out like what it would mean to be in charge of 36,000
I also
people.
think that as
good information to get. Yeah.
getting hired in that job, I would imagine it's a prerequisite to not be hosting a right-wing any podcast.
He's
I would
still
think,
going though. I don't know how long, but he said he had a few more episodes to do, so we'll see.
That's
Okay.
he's gonna go the entire 4 years. I'm sure he'll just keep going. Everyone's doing podcasts. Ted Cruz had a podcast for a few years when he was senator. Gavin Newsom has a new podcast out.
Which I think is probably smart, even though I don't like it, and it might not work because like we're not like them. Like we're probably not gonna listen to Gavin Newsom's podcast, but like I get why he's doing it.
It makes more sense
Sure.
for a governor or a politician in that realm to have a podcast in the sense of like it's like a fireside chat kind of thing. It's like
that's
you
different
communicate
than
to the
the
people.
deputy director
It's
of
a
the
little
FBI.
different than Bongino's show.
It's very, very different situation,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Well, what if they
anyway.
find out something illegal is happening at one of his sponsors, right? If Big Gun Coffee or whatever his sponsors are, there's like some malfeasance in there, he's probably going to sweep that under the rug and, blame it on Joe Scarborough or whoever.
I think corruption is just legal now. I mean, after the Eric Adams thing, I think you're just like,
Oh yeah.
if you're for Trump, I think you're just fine.
Yeah, after writing a letter that says you're doing bribes and extortion, maybe, we're beyond that point.
I will say my one non-depressing Bongino story is definitely he once did a promo for NRA TV that featured him wearing a shirt that said Socialist Tears and slowly putting several lemons into a blender, after which, it sort of goes to a card while you hear the blending sound play, and then he like pours it out into a glass and drinks it. And two things. One, that is not how you make lemonade.
No.
It's just not how any of that works. But two, this was apparently like a hit on Don Lemon. Like that was the joke.
I'm sorry, did he
Conservatives are getting
put the
better at
whole,
comedy.
Did
It's
did he
making us
put the whole
nervous.
lemon in there?
No, the entire lemon, like with the peel, 3 lemons, put them in, blended it. I don't know.
The things we do to own the libs. Oh my god.
To each their own.
Gotta make the content.
It's funny, obviously, but like it is really, really chilling and depressing to know that like a guy like that is like, yeah, you're just gonna go after your little perceived enemies, and you like your idea of like, oh, I hate the scumbag commie libs. None of those words make sense together. It's just who you hate.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically just looking at a scenario where the president of the United States is picking high-ranking federal government officials on the basis of like who says nice things about him on Fox News.
Yeah.
And how popular they are. Like how many people are fans of them.
How rich they are.
You know,
Bongino's
how rich
got
they are.
like $150 million, something like
What?
that. We
Yeah.
are all in the wrong business.
Oh
I
my
gotta tell you,
God,
there's just
what are we
so
doing?
much more money on the other
No.
side.
God.
We really should send in like an undercover podcaster to like go on Fox News to say nice things about Trump, and then once you're elevated to a certain position, you remove the mask and I don't know.
Look how easy this was. You're all rubes being duped. Oh my god.
I'll put on a wig and create
Yeah.
a fake Twitter profile that I will get verified.
When I see a contract for like a right-wing podcaster, like what they get paid, it makes me feel like we're just living in a different dimension.
Well, we say no to sponsors.
There was a story last year about how a bunch of different right-wing podcasters had gotten paid by they didn't realize this apparently.
Oh,
They
yes.
didn't realize this at the
pass-through
time.
money that originated with the Kremlin, and they just all like happened to talk constantly about how Russia is good, etc. And you know, they all after the fact, after the Justice Department indicted the people behind the scheme, they all said, you know, we were the victims here. We didn't know anything about it. But like the amounts of money, like millions
Astronomical.
of dollars, and they don't ask where the money is coming from, I guess because like the payola is generally that good on the right, and it's not surprising to get offered that. I don't know.
That's at least the argument. That's what they would like you to believe.
Either way, I mean, it's a lot.
But also, it wasn't
It's
even
a
like
lot of money.
it's not even like a sponsorship. It's like this other kind of deal for like licensing, and it's just absurd that they didn't know.
To put stuff on their YouTube channel, Tenet Media, which nobody watched. Like, how is it worth it for them to pay this much money for 6,000 views on YouTube? Oh well, but to be fair, Tim Pool and Benny Johnson are dumb. And
That's true.
That is
That's
a fair
true.
point, Jonathan.
Well, okay, Dave Rubin's dumb too, though. So
he didn't get paid, did he?
Let's.
He
He
got
did.
Yeah. Oh,
Damn it.
Yeah, Dave got paid.
I mean, oh, good for him.
Oh, the one thing he wants in life. Yeah, he got paid.
It's really good integrity there. This mystery money shows up, but if that's what we're going to believe. Okay. What else we got, Jonathan?
Well, yeah, I want to talk briefly about these lawsuits that have been settled. ABC News paid Trump $15 million to settle the lawsuit, where I think it's because George Stephanopoulos said he was found liable for rape instead of found liable for sexual assault. Something like that was the defamation lawsuit, but they deferred and paid him. Meta agreed to pay Trump $25 million.
This is wild.
Yeah,
Too much money.
And Paramount really wants its merger with Skydance to go through, so it's going to settle with Trump as well for the 60 Minutes thing where they edit interviews, like, you know how you edit interviews to go on TV? So they're going to settle and pay Trump there as well. So,
But not this number you've got in the notes, right? This is an astronomical number.
no. He's suing for $20 billion. The settlement will be in the range of this other.
$20 billion.
Yeah.
You
Dollars?
have to understand, though, that the editing hid the fact that Kamala Harris did a word salad, one of the word salads that she is known for, and therefore it is interference with the election such that the only recourse is to pay Donald Trump huge amounts of money.
$20 billion.
This stuff
bucks.
is absolutely insane. Like, that kind of precedent is wild. I don't know how anyone should do an interview again after that.
Right.
Exactly.
That's what's,
Again, it's this chilling
I mean,
effect that like, and we're already seeing so many people like not, anytime someone's like Donald Trump, the rapist, they're like, that you can't say that anymore. It's like, well, he is because he did that.
what are the ramifications of this? How does this affect people covering Trump during this time? And just the fact, I do understand that when you are faced with a lawsuit, honestly, frequently the cheapest way to get through it is to just settle. It doesn't necessarily look good out there to the world, to people that are not being discerning. They're like, well, why'd they settle? I'm like, well, because it's better and easier and cheaper to settle than be paying lawyer fees and end up in this thing drawn out. But also, it is absolutely capitulating to the president. It is absolutely trying to make nice in some capacity so that they don't get their press credentials revoked, so that they get their questions asked, so that they can stay somewhat relevant.
I sense that journalists are trying to do their jobs,
Yes.
and their bosses are making it really hard for them to do it.
Yeah, I think what's happening here, I think that's really the key thing, that it's not CBS that's trying to settle, and it's not ABC that's settled. It's Paramount, which owns CBS News, that wants to settle. It is Disney, which owns ABC News, which settled. I mean, the issue here is that I think everyone understands that Donald Trump is like constantly dumping on the media, constantly saying that they're fake news and undermining them at every turn. What I think people don't quite grasp is that he has a keen understanding of how the corporate structures behind a lot of these institutions can be manipulated. He's president of the United States. He has oversight and control of all of these different federal agencies that can screw with the corporate owners of these media outlets. And that makes the media outlets very vulnerable, because CBS News is not going to contribute a huge part of the bottom line for Paramount, in the same way that ABC is not contributing to the bottom line of Disney to a huge extent. And so if you put the executives that run the multinational corporations to the test on journalistic freedom, they don't care. They need to make sure that the money keeps flowing. They need to make sure that the deals keep getting made. This is something that Trump tried a lot during his first term as well, particularly around a merger that involved CNN's parent company. And at the time, CNN's parent company really fought back, and they went to court and they got their merger pushed through, even though Trump was trying to block it because he didn't like CNN. But this time around, we're just seeing a very different reaction from the C-suites. We're seeing them crumble and capitulate at every turn. And I think it's really a sign that they're just not going to have their journalists back on any of it.
It's not cheering me up too much, but it's
I don't bring
accurate.
the fun news, basically, ever. Like, it's generally, I don't have a lot of happy things to say, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not really.
So it's just
the vibe
kind of
the
on
show
us
generally
podcasters.
anyway.
Good thing we've got the first and only news podcast.
The only place to be depressed about the
we
news.
Can tell it like it actually is, folks. Like and subscribe, please.
Yeah, Soros, if you're watching, please like and subscribe.
Do you guys want to talk about this budget resolution?
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
We should.
We should.
Okay, so a few days ago, the Republican-led House passed its budget resolution 217 to 215.
Ooh, that's tight.
Some Republicans were very wary about voting for it because the resolution calls for the House Energy and Commerce Committee to cut spending by $880 billion over the next decade. And that $880 billion can only come from a few potential buckets, most of which, I think like 98% of which is Medicaid and Medicare. And so they said they're not going to touch Medicare.
The popular programs.
Which means you're probably, if you do this plan, and it goes to the Senate, it goes back to the House, etc. But if you do this plan, there's no way out of it other than cutting Medicaid. And about a fifth of Americans use Medicaid for healthcare, and not just in blue states.
Yeah,
us.
many,
Definitely
many,
not
many,
just
70 million tons of children, disabled Americans, like so many people rely on this, and to be like, yeah, we're just gonna cut other stuff is just a lie.
So many people, and so many of them in red states, Trump supporters, gotta say I agree with Steve Bannon on this. What's his quote? Medicaid, you got to be careful because a lot of MAGAs are on Medicaid. I'm telling you, if you don't think so, you are dead wrong. I agree with you, Steve.
It's like, yeah, that's true, and people are going to get upset, and people who voted for Trump are going to be like, wait, what happened? That's not what I voted for. And maybe that'll make them think a little harder about other stuff. Maybe they'll just be like, okay, but like he's going after the Epstein list or whatever. So it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. It's just depressing every time I see that point being made. We're like, well, a lot of people who voted for Trump are going to get hurt. Yeah, everyone is. It's bad. It's bad when anyone is. And to use the MAGA card as like, well, you shouldn't do it because people who voted for him are going to get hurt. Well,
sure.
Okay, that's not how we should operate. But again, to your point, it's like, yeah, it's still true.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I
know you don't think that.
No, I know.
You said you agreed, so you agreed.
I agree with Steve Bannon completely.
Completely, yeah.
No, but it's like this hurts, and yeah, and again, just the people, the most vulnerable of people are the ones affected by this with the fewest resources. That is going to continue to get worse and worse for this demographic. And this is a popular program that should be expanded, but instead we're going to reduce it. The ramifications of that are actually quite staggering, what that looks like materially when this stuff actually starts to happen. It certainly doesn't help anything.
In the first, month and change of a new term, it's very easy, I think, for Trump to still say, well, these egg prices are bird flu and Biden. Right, like I'm trying to bring prices down, and I'm doing it very quickly. But this stuff, if you're still paying a lot, it's Biden's fault. This kind of thing, which is going to, again, depending on if they really end up cutting some of Medicaid, they're going to try to find a way around it because they don't want to lose their seats in a couple of years. In the elections, that will definitely happen, and I'm very confident that that's a thing that's going to happen. But like, it's very tough to run away from that when you're actively taking away people's healthcare, low-income people's healthcare in states that are important to you. Louisiana, 32.4% of residents are on Medicaid. 28.3% in Kentucky.
Percentage.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying Gavin Newsom or Pete Buttigieg is going to win Louisiana in a few years. In the elections, that will definitely happen. I'm very confident in it in 2028.
Keep saying it.
But this is like Trump is going to force them into a tough bind because he doesn't care about them or their seats or whatever. They're just trying to not get yelled at by the MAGA crowd and, just vote however Trump wants and keep their seats. And it's tough for the old Republican Congress people now.
The time that Trump was at his lowest job approval, think of everything that has happened over the last... Don't think about it too hard.
That's the problem, Matt. I kind of can't.
I'm
There's
sorry.
too much. I can't hold it in my
Okay,
brain.
I'll just say the time that his job approval was at its lowest was when he and the Republicans were trying to overturn Obamacare. Back in 2017. It never fell to the same lows, but trying to take healthcare away from millions and millions of people, especially when you're doing it because you want to give more tax cuts to rich people, is just not a very popular thing to do because it's morally horrendous and everyone can kind of tell.
Exactly. You can you can see it. But also, I heard that Obama makes about $3 million a year from royalties for the name Obamacare. So maybe we should get rid of it.
Wait, where was that?
It's out there.
That's one of the things?
It's out there.
It's a thing.
Royalties for
the name Obamacare. Yeah.
I'm sorry, didn't. No,
The thing that he didn't name it, yeah, I know.
That he didn't name it.
Yeah.
It was the Affordable Care Act.
Also, like even if he did, it would be absurd. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen, and it is out there.
We're all paying a slight fee every time we say the word Obamacare. It's just
goes
pennies.
right into his pockets.
Anytime someone says the word news, we get it. That's how we're in the right-wing stratosphere. Yeah.
That's how you support us.
Do you have something else, Cody?
Oh no, I mean I just wanted to highlight Matt, what you were saying. It's just like when you do these horrendous things, it's not going to be popular. People can tell, even if like you have criticism of Obamacare, or you've been propagandized for 15, 20 years to be like, Obamacare is actually like the worst thing in the world. Once it's actually threatened, then it's going to be a problem. And if the guy who's doing it was on stage like 5 months ago saying he only has the concept of the idea of a plan to replace it still after so many years, that's just not
it doesn't
good.
fly.
That's not good politics.
I've talked to conservatives who have staunchly said like, no, it's idiotic to be up there talking about it if you don't have a plan. Like, it's not like Obamacare is the best, but it's something. I'm like, thank you. Or people that, conservatives that have had knee surgery because of Medicaid.
Yeah.
Like, this is not
But also it doesn't matter because like.
Doesn't matter.
He's just slowly dismantling everything anyway. And this idea, obviously they're going with the all the people who are upset at these town halls and stuff. They're all paid protesters.
Oh yeah, obviously.
None of them are real people. And actually, Trump isn't just the president with checks and balances. He's actually the will and voice of the people. He is the one person because he's
the
a
one
fascist,
true king,
and it's a
he's
fascist
the one
movement.
true king, right?
Yes.
To
and
unite
they're leaning into that heavily, and it's working on people.
Yeah, if judges can just stop things, then how is it a democracy? And then you have to like go through American history and explain how the system works.
Explain what it is exactly.
Legislative, executive, judicial, etc. Do you guys want to watch this Hakeem Jeffries clip on the Stephen A. Smith show?
Will it cheer me up?
I don't think
maybe.
so.
Maybe. Yeah, let's give it a shot.
Don't say maybe. You don't think it will. You're lying, Jonathan.
Maybe.
Well, listen, the extreme left protests me more than they protest Donald Trump. Because I mean, literally,
no.
wherever I go. So I think in part because
explain why.
I've declined, I've refused, I've chosen not to bend the knee to either people on the far left.
What are they asking you to do?
And certainly not to Donald Trump and the far right. We all have a responsibility to serve the people we were elected to represent and the country and the Constitution. And I certainly have not been bashful and will not be bashful in disagreeing with people who are trying to take this country in a direction that doesn't lift everybody up, whether that comes from the right or whether that comes from the far left.
I'm sorry. What? I'm losing sight of what the far left, the extreme left actually is, because I don't feel super represented by the Democratic Party in general. And to me, a lot of what has been scapegoated as the extreme left, the far left, the unreasonable demands of the left that doesn't do anything to lift everybody up, which I'm sorry, again, that's kind of the thing, is that the left wants to do their best for everybody, as many people as possible, and has a different approach. I don't understand what the far left even is. Is that wanting healthcare? Is that supporting LGBTQ plus? That's the far left?
I assume he's referring
that's
to
taking
Gaza,
us in the wrong
protesters is what he's talking about.
Gaza
He's
protesters.
Probably alluding to like, the anti-Semitic pro-Palestinian protesters or whatever he frames it as. But also, people are protesting him and demanding him do more. He's meeting with all these Silicon Valley billionaires and his messaging is not very good. And I find it frustrating in particular. Like even if you, Hakeem, feel like you are being unfairly pressured or protested by the far left, whatever that means to you, you are one of the leaders of the opposition party to what is undeniably a fascist far-right movement. That is what they are. That's what they talk about. That's what's going on right now. So if you're wasting any energy demonizing the left, then you're not actually operating as an opposition to fascism and what they're doing. And that's like really what like gets in my craw about it. Like it's very like,
well said.
What a waste of time. What are you doing? Like this is happening right now. They just want you to do better and to work harder. So to like waste any energy like complaining about the far left when we have Dan Bongino like talking about how he wants to like he wants to attack any person like nominally left in the world because of his weird axes to grind. And when that is happening, maybe don't give them the rope, like maybe don't help them out. Again, like all last year, all these people being like, oh, these Gaza protesters, they're all fake and it's all bought and paid for and stuff. You are pre-helping what is going on now, which is that they want to like deport people who are protesting for Palestine and all this kind of stuff.
But it's interesting that he's going, he's been on TV a lot lately. He's the House Minority Leader. He's on the Stephen A. Smith show. And I'm sure, Stephen A. Smith talks about sports a lot, but he's on ESPN every day. He has this separate podcast where he talks about other stuff, culture, politics. So it's interesting that he's going on there to try to make the case that I'm the reasonable one here. So you should look to us as the resistance. The resistance is not these people out in the streets, whether it's for Gaza or anything else. It's me, the guy going on a podcast. And by the way, when Hakeem Jeffries is up there saying, like, I'm trying to find out what leverage we have, what exactly should we do? I don't have the perfect answer for that. But it just seems like trying to make your media outreach, well, I'm going to go on the Stephen A. Smith show. I don't know how valuable that is to resisting Donald Trump.
Yeah, like who are you trying to reach? What are you trying to accomplish there?
And then of course if he had defined the far left, I would have appreciated that.
Yeah, just a little bit more information. It's this sort of vague, like,
it's so vague.
The far left and the far right hate me. That's just bullshit
just
that people say. Easy
fill in the blank scapegoat kind of thing. To me, is how it scans. And yeah, who are you trying to reach? Just the dead centrists? I don't know.
I miss Nancy Pelosi a lot.
Isn't that interesting?
I miss Harry Reid a lot.
Oh,
we're
sure,
basically looking at the first sort of Republican trifecta with a reelected Republican president since 2005. And I don't know, those people were really good at mobilizing.
Yeah.
Mobilizing, organizing, resisting,
I'm not
being an opposition party.
Hugest fan of Nancy Pelosi. She's good at her job.
But
and I had frustrations last term when, there this song and dance of, I'm going to step down and help groom the next set of leaders, which I like they did. And then that didn't happen. And here we are now, and people haven't had the experience or have learned how to stand up and doesn't have the same media training perhaps. And there are plenty of criticisms that are valid of Nancy Pelosi. And yeah, at this moment in time with Trump's second administration, it's like, woo! I really wish we'd have a little bit more of that flavor and backbone.
Yeah, I'd let her trade a few million of Starbucks stock or whatever in order to get, more organization going on.
Should we wrap things up with Trump gold card?
Let's do it. Trump on Tuesday said the U.S. would sell a gold card to wealthy foreigners. They could come to the U.S. and get a path to citizenship. It's $5 million. He clearly named it. He said, you have a green card, this is a gold card. And he suggested that 10 million people could take this offer, despite there not being that many people with $5 million outside of the United States in the world.
I would also posit that if you have $5 million, you're not going to spend all of it on this gold card.
Oh, sure.
So you maybe need actually a little more than 5 million to participate in this.
And since a lot of those people with $50+ million are Russian oligarchs, he was asked, would you give the gold card to Russian oligarchs? And he said, yeah, possibly. I know some Russian oligarchs that are very nice people.
That brings me back to one of my favorite moments from the first time. Remember Paul Manafort?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, that guy.
Daddy's
back in the
Blood
day.
Money.
Yeah, he was on some news show and he was asked like point blank. So like what you're saying is Donald Trump has no financial relationship with any Russian oligarchs. And his answer is amazing because he was just like, yeah, that's what it is. That's what I said. That's what our position is.
That's what our position is.
That's what our position is.
Perfect. The perfect answer. Like that answer alone is like, oh, so like the Russia stuff is totally real. Like all I need is that like 5-second answer.
Not against immigration if you are extremely wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to know.
Friend of the show, Jason Calacanis, it was his idea apparently. He proudly was like, this is my idea. He's got a lot of really great ideas.
He said 500,000 though, not 5 million. So.
Oh, well.
It's much more affordable.
That Trump
it is
magic.
much more affordable. But we're not going to have these people pay taxes.
No, of course not. Just to highlight Jason's amazing golden brain. 2 days ago, he also tweeted about how we need to get rid of the United States Postal Service. And he started with a question, please explain which Americans need the USPS in the era of email, Amazon delivery, UPS, FedEx, DHL, etc. The answer is Amazon and all those people that use the United States Post Office to deliver their packages. Jason, go outside. My God.
Matt, do you use the post office?
I do. Yeah. When I need to ship a package, I go to the post office. It works very well. Also, brings important documents and postcards from my kids' grandparents.
They can't use, they're not scanning their postcards and emailing them to your children who don't even have an email address yet. I'm assuming, I don't know. I don't know their ages.
Also, am I supposed to pay $20 to UPS to ship my rent check? You know, I'm going to have to drive an hour and hand deliver it.
You're going to be able to send rent via X.
It's just this example of like these venture capitalists, like multi-millionaires who don't live in the real world and don't go outside and don't use these services. So in their minds, they're like, well, who even uses this? Well, you're a millionaire. Yeah, you don't use them, but they want to destroy everything because in their minds, like, well, in my world, it's useless.
You know who really uses the USPS? Trump voters who live in rural counties.
Exactly. All the there's so, and it's also like very easily obtained information, which is even more frustrating, where it's like, okay, I understand you're a millionaire, you don't live in the real world, you have this skewed view of everything. Look it up. Instead of tweeting like, well, who even uses this? Look up who uses it. Look up how many of Amazon's packages are delivered by the post office. It's like 40% a few years ago.
Most of mine are.
Exactly. Because again, rural areas use them a lot.
Yeah.
And again, it's like the same things like post office, Medicaid, all these things that they don't affect your life. You're a multimillionaire. You only hang out with billionaires on your billionaire podcast. Of course, you don't know what these are for.
Anything you need to send can be sent via courier.
What could a banana cost? $5.
What could a banana cost?
Like, God, Jason.
After the tariffs, they will cost $5.
Okay, well, I think that does it for us today. Although we did cover a fair amount of territory.
We did. We don't always get to everything we want to talk about because everything happens all the time, every single day.
Matt, thank you for joining us today. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you, check out your work?
You can find my work at MediaMatters.org, and I am at Matt Gertz on all major social media platforms.
That's easy. Not Matt Gaetz.
No.
Still not.
Well, I am not responsible for those tweets.
Yeah.
That is not me.
He does tweet a lot.
All right, well, that's it. We're going to end the show. But not before I say,
Do it.
we love you very much.
Much, it's true.